What is going on, everybody? Draken1221 here, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I have an awesome video planned for you guys. We actually have a subscriber requested deck tech from one of our subscribers today. We're going to go over Tovolar, the Dire Overlord, which is kind of obviously like a werewolf wolf tribal deck. But I have some really cool choices and some really cool strategy built into the deck that I'm excited to share with you all. But before we get into that, as always, we have our channel pulse check. We are officially at 285 subscribers, which is fantastic. Before my last video, which was the Double Masters buy guide, I believe it was 125-ish subscribers or 145-ish subscribers, somewhere in that range. But that video generated over 140, almost 150 subscribers. So it seems that you guys enjoyed it. So if you guys want me to do more things like that, let me know. But the response I get on all my videos, especially the last one and things like my Dragon deck, is always overwhelming. I do appreciate each and every one of you who engage, like, subscribe, and comment. It does mean the world to me. And seeing, within the last 4 weeks or so, 150 subscriber growth just off that one video kind of keeps me going, and which makes me excited to not only share this deck profile with you, but also the highly anticipated updated Dragon deck, which is going to be coming in the next couple weeks for you guys. So I think that'll be very, very special. So just once again, the growth is astronomical, and I do appreciate each and every one of you who engage in some way, shape, or form with the channel. I respond to literally every comment that I can, so keep commenting and keep engaging. I do appreciate that, guys. Obviously, the next thing in, our little plug here, I do have the TCG Player affiliate link. Those of you guys who are unfamiliar with tcgplayer.com, it is a marketplace style website. You can type in any card name, any TCG product that's supported on the website, and purchase it. And when you use the link provided here and in the description, I actually get a little kickback on each and every order that's used through that purchase link. And it doesn't have to just be Magic the Gathering cards. It could be Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, sealed product, deck boxes. I use TCG Player daily, whether I'm making a small purchase of 25 cents, like I did the other day for my Yuriko deck, or making a large purchase of hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a new deck that I'm brewing. I really appreciate it if you would bookmark that. Again, it doesn't take a lot of time out of your day. Once it's bookmarked, you have it saved forever, and you can go directly to that link to purchase stuff. Go right to Chrome, hit the star. Those of you who have, phones and tablets, make sure you bookmark it on those. It is just a way to show your support to me without any extra money. Again, here, at least yet, we don't do Patreon or anything like that. I'm kind of a free guy. I like to do free stuff, which brings me into the next part of this. So before we get into the video, if you don't know me, I do enjoy the Secret Lair products a lot. I don't buy them all because, again, we're not made of money here, but usually with each drop, I'll buy one, maybe two. And a lot of those come with redeemable arena codes, which I've kind of stockpiled in my email. And I figured I don't use them. No one close to me would use them. So what better way than to give back a little bit than with these Secret Lair arena codes. So somewhere peppered in each of my next handful of videos will be an arena code for the first person to essentially watch and redeem. Will get access to the product on their Magic the Gathering Arena account. So stay tuned. Somewhere in the video, there will be the Phyrexian Secret Lair. So the Phyrexian Praetor Secret Lair, which comes with one of each of the five original Phyrexian Praetors. So you could redeem that to your arena account. So stay tuned. That'll be somewhere in the video. But on to the main event. This is my take on Tovolar, the Dire Overlord, which is like the Werewolf tribal. Disclaimer on all of these virtual deck techs. Obviously, I don't have the cards in person. Kind of really the only way for me to test for functionality is through like the Moxfield goldfishing and kind of play testing out hands and things like that. So take some of the card choices with a grain of salt. But I feel like just goldfishing this deck, it's really, really fun. It's really fast, and it really adheres to the strategy that I was kind of going for. The restrictions or rules, no budget restrictions. I did opt to not include any reserve list cards. There's one or two that I was kind of experimenting with playing, but I figured, hey, let's not include those just for the sake of being a little bit different. Another thing was no budget. Again, like I said, Werewolf Tribal, and kind of make it compete at the higher end of the tables. We're not going CDH. We're going kind of just underneath that, in the lines of like my Dragon deck and like my Yuriko deck and things you've seen, which are under CDH but in that higher power level. So we've made some card choices to really adhere to that. Again, other than that, no other restrictions other than let's go with the werewolf theme. As I was brewing this, because I was brewing it as strong as possible, I kind of fell victim to what I call like the Edric or the Edgar effect, where you fall into a lot of 1 to 2 drop like weenie werewolves to kind of turn them into like cantrips. But that, I believe, is kind of the strongest way to do it. So I guess without further ado, let's get into it. So Tovolar the Dire Overlord, he is 3 mana to cast, which that's actually very important kind of going into our RAM package, 3 mana. So it's going to take a while to go through some of these creatures, so I don't want to spend too much time on each card. We'll kind of give you the rundown because essentially I'm going over each creature twice. But for 3 mana, 3/3, whenever a wolf or werewolf deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So anytime any one of our wolf or werewolf creatures hit, you draw a card. Very good effect. We've kind of built the deck around this ability. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 3 or more wolves, you transform it into, you basically transform all your werewolves. So on the other side, he transforms into the Midnight Scourge, which he actually retains the card draw ability. So being that on both sides, and we've kind of flooded our deck with these smaller werewolves, we're able to cut down on the card draw in the deck, because we're always going to have card draw at our disposal. So again, he retains the combat draw card ability, and then he's kind of basically will pump all your extra mana into 1 wolf or werewolf and give it trample and plus X+0, where X is the mana you turn into it. So very, very good with getting creatures to punch through, right? We want to be able to punch through with our werewolves, whether we're going wide or tall. We want as many werewolves to get into our opponents as possible. Being that we are playing at higher tables, right? Creature decks are not less prevalent, but like early creatures on the board, and unless they're like mana dorks, aren't too big of a thing. So our strategy really plays into the higher power level, where there's always 1 or 2 players that don't have a blocker for the first several turns of the game, or have something they prefer not to block with, like Bird's Paradise or Mana Dork, yada yada yada. So again, keep in mind the 3 mana value of our commander. Going into the Planeswalkers here, obviously for theme, and these 2 Planeswalkers actually pair really well with the deck just based on their abilities. And they're higher on our curve, but overall for 4 mana, I'm more than happy to play them. We have Arlen Cord. Basically, it's 4 mana Planeswalker, +1. Target creature gets +2/+2 Vigilance and Haste. Being that we want to be able to connect with these werewolves as fast as possible, giving a creature haste, always good. And the +2/+2 bump, makes it harder to block, more apt to take that damage. And then for 0, you just throw a 2/2 wolf on the board. Again, so this is going to feed into our wolf synergy. It's going to either A, put wolves on the board, or allow some of our wolves to gain in easier, which will then trigger our commander, which triggers card draw. And you kind of get this cycle of deploy wolf, attack, draw cards. Deploy wolf, attack, draw cards. And then through that game plan, you could actually pick up and draw as many cards as possible until you get to your win cons. So we'll flip this guy here. Whoops. So this is going to flip into the Arlen Werewolf thing. Still a Planeswalker, so creatures you control for +1 get +1/+1 and trample. So it's going to beef up our board, allow our werewolves to punch through, get in that damage, whether it's 1 damage or 100 damage. We're getting to able to draw cards, which is going to give us advantage on the board. -1 deals 3 damage to target creature or player. Then you transform it. We're not really interested in that. The +1 is kind of where we're at. And then you have their ultimate. You get an emblem. Creatures you control have haste. And when they deal damage, yada, yada, yada. We're not really going to use that either. We're here just because it makes our wolves bigger or evasive or both. So not bad on the 4 mana curve. It's going to make an impact. Arlen packs Hope. Again, 4 mana. On the Daybomb side, +1 until the end of your turn, you may cast creature cards or creature spells as though they had flash, and each creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. So again, you're going to +1, and then essentially you can just pass the turn, and then end phase, flash in as many wolves as you can. So what this does is it's like pseudo haste, gives our creatures a little bit of like evasiveness, protection kind of thing. It kind of really sets the tempo. If you guys know me as a playstyle, I love the flash ability on creature-based decks, or being able to give your creatures flash in decks like this, because it just creates such a different dynamic. It's not like super powerful, but it creates a dynamic in a game that's hard to read, I guess, for your opponents, which is disclaimer that we're playing the new Flash Dragon in my Dragon deck. I believe that'll make the cut. I really enjoy cards like this. And then -3, it makes a wolf, right? So it's going to kind of feed into that strategy. And then it's going to flip into Arlen Moon's Fury on the Nightbound side. +2, it adds green and red, which isn't terrible. I'll take that. And then for 0, it just becomes a 5/5 giant wolf with indestructible and trample. So again, it's going to fit into the theme. Once it flips, it's able to turn into a creature and punch through and trigger Tovolar. So it fits into the strategy quite well. You'll notice in the deck, there's not a ton of ways to manually change into day or night. We're very reliant on our commander to do that for us. So throughout the deck, there is ways to protect the commander and easier ways to kind of recast it if it does get destroyed, because he's really one of our only ways to transform into day or night. But that being said, it is in the command zone, so it's easy to have access to the day or night trigger. So I felt like putting, more of those subpar cards to trigger day and night in the deck were just not relevant enough. So going into the creatures, we are pretty creature heavy. We do have a lot of werewolves obviously in here. So kind of going down, you'll see a lot of our 1-drops here. They are just wolves or werewolves. So again, we're kind of going into turn 1 ramp spell, ideally. Turn 2, you have 2 land and the ramp spell, you make Tovolar. And then turn 3, you cast 2 wolves. So on that turn 4, you transform them. Or if they can transform, you're just going to swing in with them anyway. But onto the creatures, we have Ascendant Pack Leader. It's just a 1-drop wolf. It enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it if you control a larger permanent. And then whenever you cast a spell that has 4 or more mana value, it gets +1/+1. It can get big, making it harder to block, but it's just a 1 mana. It's just here because it's 1 mana. Birds of Paradise. So I know I've hinted at this kind of throughout the video, but I want to cast Tovolar as early as possible. I want to cast Tovolar turn 2. I know it sounds kind of bizarre, but taking that path and really slamming him on the board turn 2, meaning he could attack turn 3, netting you minimum 1 card that turn, allows you to start snowballing with the card advantage a bit quicker. Again, if you casted him turn 4, turn 5 with a board of wolves, kind of have the same effect, but I want to be able to trigger Tovolar as many times as quickly as possible. So by the time turn 4 or 5 rolls around, I've already netted 3 or 4 additional cards. Dragonborn Champion in my Dragon deck has a similar play pattern as this for the commander, so I decided to kind of bring that strategy into this. So we are playing a lot of 1 mana ramp, obviously one of them being Birds of Paradise. We have some removal here in Mass Vandal. It is a wolf and a werewolf, and it's able to do some single target removal. Reckless Waif is just a 1 mana wolf that flips over into a bigger wolf. Village Messenger, it's just a 1/1 hasty boy. Flips over into a 2/2 hasty boy with menace. Wolfbitten Captive, again, we're just here because it is 1 mana werewolf or 1 mana wolf. Young Wolf, lower on the curve. Again, it's a 1/1 wolf to be able to deploy to trigger our commander as many times as possible. Going into some of the 2-drops, we have Duskwatch Recruiter, 2 mana to cast, 3 mana to activate. Basically, look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You pick a creature, put it in your hand, put the rest at the bottom, and then you could transform it. Whoops. And then it basically makes all your creatures 1 less to cast. It's just bigger, so we're going to try to keep it transformed, but either side we're cool with. Goblin Anarchomancer is one of the other ramp spells I opted, or ramp creatures I opted to play in this deck. This card is actually really strong. I've played this I've tested this in some other decks, but man, making all your spells cost 1 less is awesome. I mean, you're talking, land or ramp that really adds up. If this is casted on turn 2 and the game goes 8 turns, I mean, think of how much mana you've accumulated as far as saving goes. And if you look outside from our 1-drops here, you know, you're going to have the Mayor of Averbrook cost 1 less. This will cost 1 less. Werewolf costs 1 less. Our commander can cost, you know, 1 less. So there's just a lot of power in a card like this, and it really, over the course of the game, saves you a ton of mana. I'm really, really high on Goblin and Narcomancer. I would slam this in any Gruul deck. It reminds me of a creature version of like a Medallion, right? Medallions are usually 2 mana, reduced, you know, 1 color. This is 2 mana, reduces 2 different colors. So I like it. It's a creature medallion. Kessig Naturalist is the other one of the ramp spells I opted to play in the 2 mana slot. Essentially, when this card attacks, you add a green or red, and then the mana doesn't empty the pool. But I figured if we don't get a 1 mana ramp spell on turn 1, this is kind of our next best bet to kind of start ramping into playing our commander. And then it flips over, it becomes a Lord, and again, it's going to add some mana. Really, really good turn 2. Again, you want that turn 1 ramp spell, but if you don't get it, you're okay with settling for some 2 mana ramp and playing Tovolar a little bit later. Again, so like one of the advantages of the deck is obviously playing Tovolar early, but if you don't, you still play him later, and he's going to have the same effect. 1 Mare, he's a Lord for your humans. And then he's a Lord for wolves and werewolves. And then at the end step, you get to put a 2/2 into play. Not bad. Not bad. It has a lot of value, really low mana cost. Outland Liberator. This is a card I like in and outside of werewolves, in just creature-based decks in general. But 2 mana, 2/2. Pay 1 and sack it. Destroy artifact or enchantment. So we have some single target removal in there. And then it flips into it, does kind of the same thing. And whenever it attacks, you can destroy an artifact to the defending player it attacks, which is cool. Werewolf Pack Leader, it's we're pretty generous in the 1 and 2 mana slot with utility and things like that, but it has Pack Tactics, which is if you control a creature with power 6 or greater, when you attack, you draw a card, and then till the end of the turn, this card gets +5/+5 in trample. So again, you're making things big, a little bit evasive, be able to punch through for some damage and trigger Tovolar. Cemetery Prowler, another wolf. Vigilance, when it attacks, you can actually exile a card from the graveyard, and spells you cost 1 less to cast if they share a type with it. So this is a little bit of graveyard disruption, right? We're able to, you know, play a wolf on turn 3 that when it does attack, we're able to disrupt some graveyard synergies with our opponents. I always like things like that. Gaia Reach Bandit, it's just a 3 mana hasty. I keep doing that every time. Sorry, guys. And then when it flips, essentially it's just a 4/3, and then when another werewolf enters the battlefield, it flips back over. Again, it's just a little bit of value for us. It is a werewolf. Hermit of the Natterknolls, I think that's how you pronounce it. Whenever an opponent casts a spell during your turn, you draw a card. So again, if they're going to interact with you at instant speed, you're going to penalize them for it. I really like that kind of ability. Flip over. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you draw 2 cards. So you're getting some card advantage. You get a beefy boy in there. I'll take it. Hound Tamer is just a human and a werewolf. 3 mana. Trample, right? So it's going to punch through, especially if they have some little dorks on their board. And it has a little bit of a mana stink on it. You can tap 4 to put a 1/1 counter on something. Trample. Other werewolves have trample. And then you also could put a 1/1 counter on something. So this flip side ability is really, really strong. Again, you know, even punching through for 1 point of damage, you're going to trigger Tovolar's effect to start basically cycling through your deck. So I really like cards like this. Werewolf has Intimidate. It's a werewolf lord. And non-human werewolves you control can't transform. So again, it allows you to lock into that transform side, which is really cool. Crew and Outlaw, 3 mana. First strike, you could transform it. Transforms in a double strike, and it has menace. Really cool. Again, you'll notice these werewolves are just very Gruul, right? They're just very big, dumb creatures that you want to get through. So there's really no frills, bells, and whistles on the wolves. We're just playing what I think are the best ones. Pyreheart Werewolf, it's a 3 mana 1/1, has Undying. And then when this card attacks, each creature has menace, essentially. Awesome. Reckless Storm Seeker. So at the beginning of combat, target creature gets +1/+0 in haste. Again, making a creature a little bit bigger, giving it haste, allowing you to punch through for damage. Again, trigger Tovolar. The name of the game is really abusing our commander. And similar effect on the other side, except I believe 2/2/0 and trample. So again, big dumb creature is evasive. Kind of going into the 4-mana slot and into 5, you'll see things start to taper off just a tad bit as far as, you know, utility, and go into really, as far as like big dumb creatures, they'll actually have some more relevant abilities. So you flip this guy over. Whenever a werewolf enters the battlefield control, you may transform it. So again, it's going to immediately, oh, that's the last guy. Sorry. Whenever this creature transforms, you can destroy a target artifact. So again, you're going to take out a mana rock. You can take out an artifact creature, and then it deals 3 damage. Beast Whisperer. So again, your creatures have to attack and punch through in order to trigger Tovolar. Sometimes you want the cards immediately, so having the werewolves replace themselves before attacking is really strong, really important. So we play cards like Beast Whisper, and there's some other things in there. So some lines of play is Beast Whispers on the board, play Wolf, draw a card, attack, punch through, draw a card. But the cards are replacing themselves immediately in case of, you know, Cyclonic Rift or board wipe, something like that. Fangblade Brigand, 4 mana. It gets +1/+0 in first strike. Flip, it turns into a werewolf, has the same ability, and then creatures you control get +2/+0. Again, making your things bigger. Hellpack Piper is just kind of like Elvish Piper vibes. I just wanted to play this just because it has some application to it, but it's just kind of a cool card to play. Can't be countered, and then 2 mana, tap it. You can put a wolf or werewolf into play. It's Elvish Piper vibes. I love this card. And then when this card transforms, you can look at the top 6 cards, grab a creature, put it in your hand, so it allows you to kind of dig for your most powerful creature. Huntmaster, I believe this guy was a standard terror back in the day, maybe modern, I forget. But Huntmaster, 4 mana. When he enters the battlefield, make a 2/2. And you gain 2 life, and then obviously you transform him. Trample, whenever this transforms into Ravager, deals 2 damage to target opponent, and 2 damage to a creature, and then you transform it. Instigating, attacking creatures get +1/+0. So again, just big dumb gruel things, and then you could transform it. Trample, and then creatures get +3/+0. This card's pretty cool. Master of the Wild Hunt. So at the beginning of your upkeep, you make a 2/2. Upkeep triggers, I'm not super high on, but again, being able to make wolves in a deck like this, I opted for it. But its ability is interesting. I would probably throw this in like almost like a board wipe category, because of the way you can distribute the damage. You can essentially take out all the threats you need to, but you tap all wolf creatures you control. Each wolf tapped this way deals damage equal to its power to target creature, divided as its controller chooses among any number of werewolves. So essentially you just basically choose where your wolves deal their damage to, and you can just wipe out the strongest creatures. Cult of the Waxing Mood, I also like this card. You could really create some swingy boards with this, especially if there's like flash and stuff involved. But whenever a permanent you control transforms into a non-human creature, you make a 2/2. So if you have 5 werewolves on the board, your upkeep hits, Tovolar triggers, you transform 5 guys, you make 5 2/2s, right? If you have haste enablers on the board, you create some really swingy plays. Kestis Cage Breakers, when this card attacks, you make a 2/2 that's tapped and attacking for each creature card in your graveyard, right? So let's say you've overextended a little bit. You get Wrath, 5 creature cards go to the graveyard. You end up playing this guy, and you make a bunch of 2/2s, right? So it enables a lot of recovery plays for you, which you're going to need. Can't happen. Sage of Ancient Lore, power and toughness is equal to the number of the cards in your hand, which is like here nor there. Hopefully you have 7-ish cards in hand, with Tovolar triggering all the time. Whenever Sage of Ancient Lore enters the battlefield, it draws a card, so it immediately is going to replace itself. Flips to a Vigilance Trampler, right? Power equal to the number of cards in your hand, so it could be like a 5/5, 6/6, 7/7. It's going to be big, it's going to punch through, it's going to be dumb, it's going to be great. Ulrich of the Kralin Horde, whenever this creature enters the battlefield or transforms, it gets +4/+4. Again, big dumb things. Flip card. So whenever this creature transforms, you can have a fight target non-werewolf creature. So it's just going to nuke a smaller creature. Again, so you could just keep kind of flipping it back and forth. All right, kill your Mana Dork, kill your 4/4, kill your Beast Whisperer, kill your Esper Sentinel, things like that, and just keep those kind of annoying things off the board. Village Watch, it's a 4/3 with haste. Not super exciting on that side, but when you flip it, Wolves and Werewolves has haste, so it's going to haste your whole board. Again, if you could trigger that quicker, the better. Averbrook Caretaker, it's got hexproof, and at the beginning of combat, you can put 2 1/1 counters on a target creature. So again, you're going to go with making something bigger, making it harder to block, more apt to get through, especially if you give it trample or something like that. Flip it. This has hexproof, gives all other permanents you control hexproof, and you also get to disperse some counters as well. So you get some built-in protection just by flipping it over. Hollowhenge Overlord. So flash at the beginning of your upkeep for each creature you control that's a wolf or a werewolf, you make 2/2 wolf. Again, this kind of goes with the going wide play. And then Tovolar's Huntmaster. When it enters the battlefield, you create 2 2/2 wolf tokens. And then whenever this card enters the battlefield or attacks, you create 2 more 2/2 wolf tokens. And then 4 mana, another wolf or werewolf fights a creature. So 4 mana, something small, something big, attacks something smaller, and you kill it. So again, if you haven't gotten the message, this is just big, dumb, punch through as much as possible, Gruul vibes. I don't think it gets much more Gruul, much more fun, much more of a slugfest than really a deck like this so far. So before we go any further, we are going to get into the giveaway. So congratulations to the lucky person who wants this. This is the activation key for your Magic the Gathering Arena. The first person to enter this code gets a free Phyrexian Praetor's Complete Edition for their MTG Arena account. Again, congratulations. There'll be more giveaways like this in the future. I have the Pride Secret Lair. I actually think I have the Heads I Win, Tails You Lose I have to give away. But I have a handful of these that I just want to give out and give back to you guys. So thank you guys for watching my videos. Little giveaway for you guys. All right, so we've gotten past the meat of the deck, and I know we talked about a lot, but it's a very simple strategy. So we're going to kind of go into the remaining spells of the deck. This should go a little bit quicker, a lot less to talk about. So I talked about 1 mana ramp being very important. We have things like Birds of Paradise, and now we have something like Green Sun Zenith. So Green Sun Zenith is green and X. Search your library for a green creature card with mana value X or less. Put it onto the battlefield. So late game, right? Pour X into it. Basically grab any creature in our deck. Early game, as early as turn 1, we could pay 0 for this, right? When you pay 0, you can actually grab a land we have called Dryad Arbor, which counts as a creature, but is also a forest. So essentially, 1 mana, grab a forest out of our deck. Pretty cool. I like that a lot. When I came across my 1 mana ramp package, it's something I was really excited for, and I'm excited to see how the deck plays in action. So if any of you have Tovolar lying around in person and want to try something a little different, give this a try. I think it's cool. Obviously, we have Nature's Lore, which is like Nature's Lore and 3 Visits, which are like the best 2 mana ramps in the game. You grab a forest, it comes into play untapped. You can grab some dual lands, shock lands, things like that. If you've seen my deck profiles, I'm super high on MDFCs, especially the Mythic Rare Cycle, which has the ability to come into play untapped. But this is just a mountain on one side, and then you have some utility with pouring X into it to kill some things. Again, 3 Visits. Into the modal cards, Balagad Recovery, Regrowth, and then a forest that comes into play tapped. I mean, obviously, we're in red. We're based around our commander. We're trying to get our commander out on turn 2. Jeska's Will is a power play, right? We all know how great Jeska's Will is, but being able to just windmill slam this card on maybe like turn 3, pretty cool. And again, always a strong card, strong at all levels of the game, but the earlier the better. One of our win cons, Triumphs of the Horde, it's going to give our creatures +1/+1, It's going to give him trample, so we're going to trigger things, and infect. So we're going to end the game, and if we don't end the game, we're killing some 1 or 2 people, and we're drawing a bunch of cards off it. This card is probably the best win condition in the deck. There's another card or 2 in here that's pretty good, but if you have like 4 or 5 werewolves on the board, especially if they're all flipped, good lord, so help your play group. Turn Timber Symbiosis. Again, it's just an untapped forest on one side, and it basically allows you to pick up a creature up the top of your deck on the other side. Just better than a forest in every way. Might as well play it. And then kind of the other board wipe of the deck, we have Blasphemous Act. Sometimes, you know, things don't go our way. We need a panic button. Blasphemous Act. It's usually 1 red mana, kill the whole board. On to the instant Worldly Tutor. Not a ton to say. We're a creature-based deck. We're in green. We're going to play Worldly Tutor. We want some protection, right? We want to be able to play Tovolar early, but, you know, as the game progresses, like your play group's going to say, all right, like this dude is kind of going off the chain. He's drawing cards every turn. He's flipping these werewolves. We got to deal with Tovolar. So cards like Heroic Intervention to protect it. Tybalt's Trickery is essentially a counter spell. So you're able to protect your commander, and, you know, let's say they launch a kill spell and you Heroic Intervention or counter with Tybalt's Trickery. Casting Tovolar for 5 mana later in the game is not that terrible. Even casting it for 7 like isn't the worst thing either late in the game. Anything past that is pretty bad, but yeah, if you have to cast it a second time for 5, not terrible. Removal. Beast Within, obviously the best. I think it's the best creature. The best single target removal spell in green. Cast Warp, its counterpart in red. Again, we're going to have our commander on the board all the time. We want to protect it. Deflecting Swat is live all the time. It's essentially a free counterspell for red, right? You know, they're going to go kill it. Deflecting Swat, you know, reverse the target to something. Again, it's just as free gets. Valakut Awakening, it's a tap mountain on one side, but essentially it allows you to wheel your hand away. You put, you know, use cards, any number of cards from your hand on the bottom of your deck, pick up that many cards plus 1. Return of the Wild Speaker is interesting because it's weird, right? If you guys know me, you guys know I go between like this, Rishkar's Expertise, but I opted for this because it costs 1 less and it is instant. So either you're going to draw cards equal to the greatest power of non-human creatures you control, non-human, so your werewolves have to be flipped for this card to be live, which isn't very hard, but just keep in mind it can come up. And then the other modal side is non-human creatures get +3/+3. Again, your werewolves have to be flipped into the werewolf form for this card to be live, but not super hard, just something to keep an eye out for. But you're either going to draw a bunch of cards or you're going to make your team even larger. And if they have trample for whatever reason, again, big play, and that's why I opted for return. One of the other win cons of the deck is Savage Beating. Man, I like this card, and this card just seems so good. So you can only play Savage Beating during your turn, during combat, right? Essentially, you could choose one, right? Creatures you control gain double strike, or you untap all your creatures, and there's an additional combat phase. So why do we want a card like this? You can also pay an additional red and 1 to entwine it and get both. So best case scenario, right? You entwine it for 7 mana. Your creatures have double strike, so they hit twice, and then you can untap and attack again, and they have double strike still, right? So for 7 mana, you're going to essentially end the game, or if you only need one of the modes, you pay a little bit less and you get one of the modes. But obviously untapping, right? Getting a second combat phase triggers Tovolar a second time, right? But the double strike also triggers Tovolar twice as well. So by paying into the entwine cost, you're going to trigger Tovolar potentially 4 times, right? Which is pretty good, right? If I have 5 werewolves and I resolve this card entwined, my double strike goes through, I draw 5 cards for werewolf, trigger again, 5 cards for each of my werewolf, untap, attack again, 5 more. You could see how that would get out of hand. A lot of card advantage, and again, one of our win cons, and I feel for that ability, 7 mana, that's almost underpriced. I mean, I know 7 mana is a lot, but this is what you want out of a 7 mana value card. Into our artifacts, not too many here. Very self-explanatory. We have our Soul Ring. We have our Lightning Greaves. It's just kind of the best equipped spell with protection. It's free to equip, so we can bounce it back and forth between things when we need haste, when we need protection. And then Greyhenge, your guys are going to be big. Greyhenge is normally going to cost, between 2 and 4 mana. It allows your guys to get bigger. It allows you to ramp, right? It's going to refund 2 mana. And also, when your non-tokens enter the battlefield, you do get them bigger, obviously, but you do draw cards, so it's almost in that cantrippy respects. Some of the enchantments, so we'll talk about these 3 together. Obviously, Utopia Sprawl and Wild Growth. You can enchant a land here and a forest here. This one will add 1 mana of any color, which is nice. This one will add just another green. So line of play is play forest turn 1, cast Wild Growth on the forest, turn 2, red source, right? You can then successfully cast Tovolar on turn 2. Similar with Utopia Sprawl, you play forest, you get any source, right? You don't, if you put it on a forest, right, which you have to, it can then make red and green, and then you just need a colorless source. I guess similar would go to Soul Ring. If you go turn 1, mountain, Soul Ring, turn 2, forest, then you could then cast Tovolar as well. So that goes in that play. And then Carpet of Flowers is essentially 1 green mana. During your main phase, you add X mana of 1 color to your mana pool, where X is the number of islands target opponent controls. So this is cool because there's going to be somebody playing blue, and all you need is just 1 island to be played on that first go around of the table, and you've kind of gotten your use out of it as far as what you wanted to do. Anything beyond that is just gravy on top. If this nets you 4 mana down the line on turn 3 or 4, 5 mana on turn 5, 6 mana on turn 6, then you've just ran away with the game, essentially, in terms of mana advantage. What you want out of this at the bare minimum is if you play this turn 1, somebody needs to play an island, so you can then cast Tovolar on turn 2. If not the worst case scenario, things will start to compile later in the game. But again, at the floor, it's still very, very good. And at the ceiling on turn 6, when there's 6, 7, 8, 9 islands on the board, again, all you need is 1 person to play an island. But if for whatever reason you sit down at a table and there's no blue players, highly unlikely, but I guess it could happen in theory. But there's also this situation where you sit down against 3 blue players. And you can net a lot of mana. Your life might be miserable because there's counter spells flying around, but hopefully they're countering each other. So that kind of is into the 1 mana ramp, and I think this is a great strategy for this deck. Full Moon's Rise, I opted to play this for a couple reasons. So it's only 2 mana lower on the curve for us. It buffs all your werewolves and gives them trample. So they all have trample. They all are an additional power. So it just kind of chills there and beefs up your board. And then when you need to, it's a panic button. They're like, hey, boom, blow up the board. I'm just going to sack it and regenerate all my werewolves. So, awesome. We're in green, so we do struggle with, 1-for-1 creature removal. So, I definitely packed in Kenrith's Transformation. 2 mana, you enchant a creature and you draw a card. So, it's going to cantrip itself and immediately replace itself. And it just turns a creature into like a vanilla 3/3. Putting this on somebody's commander that doesn't have like a sack outlet get people pretty salty, especially if you go a little bit lower in power level. But this just allows you to turn off a creature that's a problem for you. When you're dealing with a creature-based deck like ours that has a lot of smaller creatures, sometimes it takes us time to get them bigger. So just turning off something that is big or obnoxious or stacksy allows us Kenrith's Transformation to slot in nicely. And do not underestimate the ability to cantrip. Sylvan Library. This is Sylvan Library. It's insane. But the thought process was it allows for some burst card draw in the games where you can't cast Tovolar turn 2. This is a fine turn 2 play. Beastmaster Ascension. You're going to trigger this, by turn 4 or 5 every time. It allows your guys to just be bigger, more of a problem. All you need to do is give some guys trample. Game is yours. Song of the Dryads in the same vein as Kenrith's Transformation. This does cost 3, but it just turns something into a colorless forest, again, locking down commanders and problem creatures. Guardian Project, again, cantrippy theme, right? Play creature, draw a card, attack, draw a card, play creature, attack, draw a card, attack, draw a card. Like, just creates that cycle, and then we're just kind of turning and burning through our deck to see our win condition, which brings us to our last win condition is Berserker's Onslaught. It's an enchantment for 5 mana. Very simple. attacking creatures you control have double strike, right? So now your creatures are hitting harder, they're hitting stronger, they're trampling through, they're hitting twice, and you're drawing double the cards off of Tovolar. So that is kind of our third win condition of the deck. Last thing here, we're going into lands. Rough mana base, you can do what you want with it. I would probably throw a Reliquary Tower in here just because you might have just a ton of cards. I mean, it depends how many cards you draw. The difference between like your best 7 and just 10 cards is minimal, but the difference between 7 cards and like 15 cards is a lot. And just through some goldfishing, like this deck could have a lot of cards in hand, so I would probably slot a Reliquary Tower in there. But loose mana base, again, do with this as you will. This will probably change through testing. Again, the whole deck profile is, you got to take it with a grain of salt because it's untested in live gameplay, but man, this deck was fun to just goldfish. I'm really tempted just to purchase this in real life down the line. But I digress. So kind of just the best lands. We have Boseiju, Castle Embereth, Cavern of Souls, Cinderglade, Command Tower, our Pathway, the Dryad Arbor, which is very crucial to our strategy with Zenith, Exotic Orchard, Fabled Passage, Firelit Thicket, some Forest, Grove of the Burnwillows, which is like super underrated. The life gain is irrelevant. It's an untapped dual land. Play this card all day. Our Pain land, Keswick Wolf Run, being able to give our creatures like a little bit of evasion on a land, super awesome. Some mountains. Mutavault, I opted for Mutavault because we are a 2-color deck, so we can afford some utility lands in here, and then it just becomes a wolf when you need a wolf. Prismatic Vista, Rockvale, this is our Midnight Hunt land. Rootbound, which is like our check land. We have our cycle land. Sokenzan is basically an untapped forest that can essentially just throw some guys on board. It's just better than a mountain. Spire Garden, which is our crowd land. Stomping Ground, our shock land. Strip Mine, always pack a Strip Mine in your 2-color decks. Our fetch land, and Yavimaya. So that is the entire Tovolar deck. Again, this was really fun to make. I would love for someone to test this kind of variant that just tries to turbo out Tovolar on turn 2 on paper, just to see how cool it is. Some cards I was considering, there's a lot here. You know, you could include your Elf lineup if you want some more 1-drops in there. Staxy, Collector's Oof. I really wanted to play Professional Facebreaker. A little peek for you guys. This is actually slotted in my Dragon deck currently. This card is fantastic. I am super high on Professional Facebreaker. For 3 mana, Treasure Synergies, just chef's kiss of a card. So this is in my Dragon deck currently. I love this card. I really wanted to play it in here, but just the deck didn't really need it. This is a cool card. Whenever creatures deal combat damage, you draw a card. Just kind of like Toski, if you wanted to double up on that. But it also gives your creatures a little bit of evasion with Death Touch. Obviously, Craterhoof could slot nicely in here too. You could probably cut one of the other win cons that I have in here if you wanted to play Craterhoof. You know, just some more removal spells. I would love to play Nature's Claim. You could slot this over the Mass Vandal if you want. Wall of Magic Surge is awesome if you wanted to cut one of the other removal spells in the deck. I think this is a really cool card. I guess just the problem I ran into with this card is they get an exact permanent of what you removed. So if you kill an enchantment, they get an enchantment. If you kill a creature, they get a creature. And like if you kill a big problematic creature, and they're guaranteed another creature. It's not like Chaos Warp where it could be anything. So I don't know. I was just a little less excited for that. You want some more tutors? You can play Court of Calling. I didn't play any like Artifact Ramp just because we're in green. Coat of Arms might be good. The Celestis. So again, without testing, maybe I'm missing something, but like I just read this card and I'm like not thrilled. So like 3 mana rocks in general, for me to want to play that, especially in like a green based deck, like you gotta be pretty good. So when it comes into play, like it turns it to day, right? Yeah, it becomes day, which is like not what you want. You want night anyway. So, and it only transforms some of your werewolves because some of them are day bound and some of them are night bound. It has a mana, which is cool, but it's a 3 mana rock. And then for 3 mana, you could turn it into night. Like that just seems too overpriced when it's built for free in our commander. And then it allows you to do some like looting. I just like wasn't super excited about this card. So maybe I'm missing something. Again, that just could come from my ignorance without testing. Let me know if I'm wrong. Steel Resolve is another card. Through some testing, that would probably make its way in. Not super sure. You know, I like Steel Resolve in my Dragon deck. Aggravated Assault, it's just extra combats. Fires the Avimaya, Rhythm of the Wild, Invigorating Hot Spring. You know, I really wanted to include Rhythm of the Wild in there, but we were crammed for space. Again, that could probably make its way in through testing. Rage Reflection is just another like double striker card. We just didn't need it because we had some other ones in there. Just some lands. Like I wanted to play Yavimaya High-Low, but that's reserve list. Scavenging Grounds would be pretty cool just for some graveyard hate. We don't have a ton. We're in green and red. So that's the deck, guys. Really, really cool. I thought this was a cool little take on it. Let me know what you guys think, what changes you would make. Maybe I'm missing something. But this was a blast to kind of brew up. Shout out to the subscriber that suggested this deck. I do take requests. I'm a little backlog on what videos I want to do right now. The last video I made, I got some really good feedback. Some of you guys want to see how I store my collection. Once I get a little bit more of a following, I want to explore that, show you guys like how I transport my stuff, what I store my stuff in, what products I use, things of that nature. I do like the idea of giving away the arena codes, but I think at like 500 subscribers, I want to do like an actual giveaway of like some MTG product. Maybe I'll make it dragon themed, you know, give away some sort of like MTG dragon themed, maybe like a playmat or some cards or something at like 500 subs, just to kind of show my love for you guys, because you guys have been awesome. Again, I can't stress I love the feedback from you guys. And again, you'll see I have some decks in the works. Like I got a request to show off my Shadowborn Apostle deck. I got my Krenko Bob Ross deck loaded up and ready to go. And then my Dragon deck, which I've disabled the link. You got a lot of feedback on that. The link is disabled until I have like a final version, which I will have in a couple weeks for you guys. But that is the video, guys. Thank you for stopping by. I do appreciate it. Have a great day.